We all have had that point in our life where we're like, get a hold of this guy, a stupid fool for believing fake news. What a monkey. But you're looking at a mirror. Some people actually believed things that were complete fakes. Today, it doesn't take a chimp to decipher if something's fake news. But before, let's just get into it. Fiji Mermaid. P.T. Barnum, that exact guy that Hugh Jackman played in The Greatest Showman, was the dude behind this. In 1842, a strange creature grabbed the attention of people in New York City. It was called the Fiji Mermaid. This so-called mermaid didn't look like the beautiful ones from stories. Instead, it had the dried-up head and body of a monkey and the tail of a fish. Its mouth was open as if it was screaming, and its skin was wrinkled and dark. People were both curious and creeped out by how it looked. The creature was shown in his museum. The story of the Fiji Mermaid started earlier when a man named Samuel Barrett Eads bought it from Japanese sailors in 1822. These sailors had made the creature by sewing a monkey's upper body to a fish's tail using taxidermy. Eads brought the mermaid to London, hoping to make some cash by showing it off. But he died soon after, and the mermaid went to his son, who didn't know what to do with it. The strange thing eventually ended up with Moses Kimball, who ran a museum in Boston. He saw potential in the weird object and decided to team up with P.T. Barnum. Moses Kimball showed the mermaid to P.T. Barnum in 1842. Barnum was known for his talent in bull people with fake stories, and he saw the fake Ariel as a great way for some clinkety-clink money. He agreed to rent the mermaid from Kimball for $12.50 a week. Barnum knew that he needed to stir up excitement, which he, again, specialized in. So he came up with this bull story with a fake character, with a fake story. It started with Dr. J. Griffin, a British scientist from Lyceum of Natural History, who brought the mermaid from the South Seas. Well, Dr. Griffin was real and fake at the same time, because this supposed doctor turned out to be his buddy Levi Lyman. Then P.T. would send letters and stories to newspapers under fake names. He would praise the mermaid to the point that it was basically glazing. He even arranged for fake sightings of Dr. Griffin and the mermaid at hotels and public places. The newspapers printed these stories, and the public became even more interested. With the public all hyped up, Barnum announced that the Fiji Mermaid would be shown for a short time. The exhibit opened at Concert Hall in New York City. Many were shocked by the mermaid's ugly appearance. It wasn't the lovely siren they might have expected, but a shriveled, creepy figure. Despite this, or maybe because of it, the exhibit was a huge hit. Not everyone believed that the mermaid was real. Some journalists and scientists were doubtful. They examined the creature and noticed that it looked like a taxidermy trick. Barnum didn't mind the doubt. In fact, he welcomed it. The arguments only made more people into the drama. As time passed, more proof showed that the mermaid was a hoax. Experts in animals and anatomy pointed out things that didn't make sense. They noted that the creature's teeth and bones didn't match any known species. Eventually, it became clear to most that the mermaid was a fake. But by then, Barnum had already made a lot of money and had become even more famous as a showman. The Mechanical Turk. I'm a chess boy, so I'm gonna have a field day with this part. In 1770, Wolfgang von Kempelen was an inventor from Hungary. He made the Mechanical Turk, and no, it doesn't juke your ice cream cone away from your hands. It was this animatronic that looked like someone from the Ottoman Empire, and it sat behind a large cabinet. The sole purpose of this is to play chess against humans. The cabinet had doors at the front and back, which von Kempelen would open before each game. Inside, people saw a complex combination of gears, cogs, and machinery. This display made players believe that the machine was fully stockfish. After its debut, the Mechanical Turk went on tours across Europe. It played in royal courts and public exhibitions, drawing large crowds wherever it went. People were fascinated by the idea of a machine that could outsmart humans. The Mechanical Turk played against many famous people like Napoleon and Benjamin Franklin. What people didn't know was that the Mechanical Turk was actually a human-operated thing. The controller hid inside the cabinet. Chess masters from that time like Johann Allgaier, Boncourt, and Aaron Alexandre played in it. The cabinet's design included sliding seats and moving panels that allowed the operator to stay hidden while the internal mechanisms were shown to the audience. The operator used magnets, levers, and a special board to move the chess pieces on top of the cabinet. Von Kempelen and later operators of the machine went to great lengths to keep the illusion alive. They would perform elaborate demonstrations of the machine's inner workings to convince the audience that no one could possibly be inside. The sound of moving gears and the sight of spinning cogs were all part of the act to make everyone think they were playing the Alpha Zero of the past. In 1704, Wolfgang von Kempelen died, and the Mechanical Turk was sold to Johann Nepomuk Melzel. He repaired and improved the Mechanical Turk, making it even more convincing. Meltzel took the machine on tours to the United States and other countries. There were skeptics who tried to bust the trick, but no one succeeded. The machine even broke down several times, but each time, it was repaired and brought back to life. In 1838, the Mechanical Turk ended up in the Chinese Museum in Philadelphia. It stayed there for years, becoming part of the museum's collection. Sadly, in 1854, a fire broke out in the museum, and the Mechanical Turk was destroyed. After the machine was destroyed, people began to write about it, and the truth started to come out. Writers and former operators revealed the secrets behind the Mechanical Turk. They explained how the human operator was hidden inside and how the machine was designed to fool audiences. Unlike that machine, this channel will never fool you, so you can subscribe to the channel and like this video if you're having a good time. Orson Wells. The War of the Worlds radio broadcast happened on October 30th, 1938. On Halloween? Of all times, Orson Wells directed and narrated it. The show was based on H.G. Wells' novel about Martians invading Earth. It was broadcast on CBS Radio. The program was presented as a series of news bulletins. The idea was to make it seem real. The broadcast started with regular news. Then suddenly, they announced that strange things were happening in Grover's Mill, New Jersey. The news reporters described explosions and fires. They claimed it was an alien invasion. The format was so convincing that many listeners thought it was real. People tuned in expecting a typical radio show. They didn't realize it was a drama until it was over. The show lasted about an hour. It used realistic sound effects and urgent reporting to create panic. Some listeners tuned in late and missed the clear announcement that it was fiction. These listeners believed that Earth was actually under attack by Martians. Panic spread across the United States. People fled their homes believing they needed to escape the invasion. Some went to shelters or tried to find relatives. Newspapers the next day reported that there was widespread panic caused by the broadcast. Authorities responded to the panic. The Federal Communications Commission investigated the incident. They found that the broadcast had caused confusion because of its realistic format. Radio stations began to adopt more clear disclaimers before broadcasts. The incident showed the power of radio as a medium. It demonstrated how easily people could be influenced by what they heard on air. Some critics argued that the broadcast was irresponsible. They believed it exploited listeners' fears for entertainment. Orson defended the broadcast. They said it was meant to be a harmless entertainment piece. They argued that people should have been able to distinguish fiction from reality. However, the incident led to changes in how radio programs were presented. Stations became more careful to prevent similar confusion. Paul bloated. Nah, that wasn't the fake news. Back in '69, nice. The supposed story was that Paul got into a car accident after leaving a recording session late at night. They said he crashed his car and died on the spot. The date of the accident was said to be November 9, 1966. The Beatles, not wanting to upset fans or hurt record sales, replaced him with someone who looked and sounded just like him. Some even claimed the replacement was named William Campbell or Billy Shears. The idea was that this imposter took over Paul's life and continued to perform with the band as if nothing had happened. Some say the rumor began when a college student wrote an article hinting at Paul's death. Others think it started on a radio show where a caller shared the strange theory. The student newspaper at Drake University published a piece pointing out supposed clues in the Beatles' music. Soon, the story spread like wildfire, and everyone wanted to find out the truth. Radio DJ Russ Gibb from Detroit received a call on his show about the rumor, which led him to discuss it on air. Fans began to search Beatles' songs for hidden messages. In the song Strawberry Fields Forever, some thought they heard John Lennon say, "I buried Paul" at the end. John later said he was actually saying cranberry sauce, but that didn't stop the rumors. Others believed that playing Revolution 9 backwards revealed secret phrases like, "Turn me on, dead man," in "I'm so tired," played backwards. Some claimed to hear, "Paul is dead, miss him, miss him." The song Glass Onion had the line, "Here's another clue for you all, the walrus was Paul," which fans took as another hint. I used to believe this in Lady Gaga's Bad Romance and Beyoncé's Single Ladies. Album covers also became a source of clues. The cover of Abbey Road was seen as a funeral procession. John, dressed in white, was the preacher or angel. Ringo, in black, was the undertaker or mourner. Paul, barefoot and out of step with the others, was the corpse. George, in denim, was the gravedigger. Paul was holding a cigarette in his right hand, even though he was left-handed, which fans thought was a sign that it wasn't really him. The license plate on the Volkswagen Beetle in the background read 28IF, meaning Paul would have been 28 if he were still alive. On the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band cover, there was a floral arrangement that looked like a left-handed bass guitar, which was Paul's instrument. Some thought the arrangement spelled out Paul. There was also a hand raised over Paul's head, which in some cultures is a sign of death. The inside gatefold showed Paul wearing a patch that read OPD, which fans took to mean officially pronounced dead, though it actually said OPP, standing for Ontario Provincial Police. The media jumped on the story, and newspapers and magazines wrote about the rumor. Time, Life, and other major publications covered the conspiracy theory. Radio stations played songs backwards, trying to find more hidden messages. Paul McCartney was living a quiet life on his farm in Scotland at the time. When he heard about the rumors, he was surprised and a bit annoyed. He decided to set the record straight and invited a reporter from Life magazine to his farm. He gave an interview, showing that he was very much alive. Photos of Paul with his family were published, and he addressed the rumor directly. He said the rumors were bloody stupid and that he was enjoying his time away from the public eye. He hoped this would put an end to the speculation. Even after Paul's interview, some people still believed the rumor. They thought the interview was part of the cover-up and that the person claiming to be Paul was actually the imposter. The conspiracy theory just wouldn't die, and fans kept looking for more clues in the music and album art. Some argued the replacement had plastic surgery to look more like Paul. Others thought the band's change in musical style was due to the new member. Oian Poems. James Macpherson was a Scottish poet who claimed he found ancient poems written by a Scottish bard Oian. He said he had translated these works from old Gaelic manuscripts. People were amazed by these supposed ancient texts. They thought they had discovered a lost piece of history. James grew up speaking Gaelic and knew local stories. In his early years, he wrote some poems, but nobody paid much attention. In 1759, he met John Home. Home encouraged him to translate Gaelic poems into English. Macpherson then published Fragments of Ancient Poetry. He said these were translations of old poems he had found. The book got people talking. He told everyone he had traveled through the Highlands collecting old poems and stories. He claimed that Oian was a great poet from the 3rd century. The poems told tales of heroes and battles. In 1761, he published Fingal, an ancient epic poem. The next year, he released Tamora. These works were filled with misty landscapes and brave warriors. They matched the romantic ideas people had about the past. Writers like Goethe bought into the lie. Even Napoleon believed another one of the hoaxes. The poems influenced literature and art across Europe. Painters created works based on scenes from the poems. Samuel Johnson thought Macpherson was full of crap. He didn't believe the poems were real. Johnson asked Macpherson to show the original manuscripts. When Macpherson couldn't, Johnson called him a fraud. This led to a big argument between them. Scholars started to dig deeper. They looked into Gaelic literature and found that the poems didn't match any known traditions. They realized that Macpherson had made up most of the material. He had taken some old stories and added his own ideas. Macpherson said he had gathered the poems from old men in the Highlands. But when people went looking, they couldn't find anyone who had heard these poems before. Despite the doubts, many people still loved the poems. They were translated into several languages. They played a big role in the Romantic movement. In 1763, Macpherson published The Works of Oian. This collection included all the poems he had translated. The popularity of these works continued to grow. Hugh Blair, a professor and friend of Macpherson, defended the poems. He wrote a piece praising them. This helped keep people believing they were real. But the critics didn't give up. They pointed out that the style of the poems was too modern. They asked how such advanced poetry could come from the 3rd century. In 1773, Samuel Johnson went to the Scottish Highlands himself. He wanted to find the truth. He talked to locals and searched for manuscripts. He found nothing to support Macpherson's claims. Johnson wrote about his findings. He said that Macpherson was a liar who had made everything up. Macpherson got angry and threatened Johnson, but he still didn't provide any proof. Over time, more people started to see that the poems were a hoax. Scholars compared them to real Gaelic literature. They found big differences. It became clear that Macpherson had created most of the content himself. He might have used some bits from old stories, but he had twisted them and added his own stuff. Macpherson died in 1796. He left behind a lot of money, partly from the success of the Oian poems. In the 19th century, scholars had better access to Gaelic texts. They confirmed that the Oian poems weren't authentic ancient works. They were mostly Macpherson's creations. Burger King Advertisement. It was an April Fool's joke in 1998 made by Burger King. They put a big ad in USA Today, talking about a new Whopper made just for left-handed people. They called it the left-handed Whopper. The ad said it was for the 32 million left-handed Americans. The ad explained how this new burger was special. It had the same stuff as the regular Whopper. That means it had a beef patty, lettuce, tomatoes, onions, pickles, ketchup, mayonnaise, and a bun with sesame seeds. But they said they had changed the way the burger was made. They said they rotated the condiments 180 degrees. This was supposed to make it easier for left-handed people to hold and eat the burger without things falling out. For the love of God, please know that burgers are cornerless. I'm not even going to explain that to you. They also said the bun was turned around. This meant the top and bottom halves were switched to favor left-handed eaters. The ad had a lot of details to make it sound real. Many people read the ad and believed it. On that day, lots of people went to Burger King restaurants. They asked for the left-handed Whopper. Some people even asked for the right-handed version. The workers at Burger King were surprised. Many of them didn't know about the ad. They were confused when customers asked for the special burger. The restaurants became busy with people wanting to try the new burger. The workers had to explain that there was no left-handed Whopper. Some customers were upset. Others laughed when they realized it was a joke. News reporters heard about the prank. They started writing stories about how many people had been fooled. The story spread quickly. It was on the radio, TV, and in other newspapers. The next day, April 2nd, Burger King told everyone that it was a prank. They put out a statement saying that the left-handed Whopper didn't exist. They thanked everyone for joining in the fun. They also reminded people that their burgers could be enjoyed by everyone, no matter which hand they used. Balloon Boy. On October 15th, 2009, in Fort Collins, Colorado, the Heen's family claimed that their 6-year-old boy had been carried away by a homemade helium balloon shaped like a flying saucer. He was probably taken by Mr. Fredrickson on the way up. This prompted a rescue operation involving the National Guard and local authorities as they tracked the silver balloon soaring thousands of feet in the air across the Colorado skies, with helicopters and radar following its path while millions watched on live television. The balloon traveled over 50 miles, reaching altitudes of around 7,000 feet, and at one point, there was concern that Falcon might have fallen out, as a compartment on the balloon was found open, so ground teams searched along the balloon's flight path for any sign of the boy, while his parents appeared on television distraught and worried. When the balloon finally landed in a field near Denver International Airport, authorities rushed to it but found that Falcon was not inside. Later that afternoon, relief came when Falcon was found hiding in a box in the attic above the family's garage, raising questions about how he could have been missed during the earlier searches of the house, and suspicions began to emerge regarding the legitness of the entire thing, since people wondered whether the family made all this up for the purpose of clout. Next day, the family appeared on various television programs to talk about what happened, and during an interview on CNN's Larry King Live, Falcon made a comment that intensified suspicions when he said, "You guys said that we did this for the show," which his father shrugged off. Turns out, the dad wanted to be a reality show cast. He got his appearance though. He showed in Wife Swap with his family. The mom then said they planned it 2 weeks in advance. In court, Richard Heen pleaded guilty to a felony count of attempting to influence a public servant, while Mayumi pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor count of filing a false report as part of plea agreements intended to avoid more severe penalties and to prevent Mayumi, who was not a U.S. citizen, from facing immigration consequences, and they were sentenced to jail time, probation, and ordered to pay restitution to cover the costs of the unnecessary rescue efforts. Richard was sentenced to 90 days in jail, with 30 days to be served in jail and the remaining 60 days on work release, allowing him to work during the day and return to jail at night, and he was also required to perform community service and placed on probation for 4 years, during which he was prohibited from profiting from the hoax, while Mayumi was sentenced to 20 days in jail, which she served through supervised community service, reflecting the court's recognition of her lesser role in the prank. Time Traveler. John Titor was a person who posted messages on internet forums between the years 2000 and 2001. He claimed to be a time traveler from the year 2036. His posts were made on forums like Art Bell's website, discussing topics about time travel and the future. John Titor described how he used a time machine to travel back to the year 1975 to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer, which he said was needed to fix problems in his own time. In his messages, John Titor gave detailed explanations about how time travel worked in his universe. He described the time machine as a device that used 2 main principles: a gravity state where a gravitational singularity would be created by reversing the polarity of the negative energy in a gravitational system, and a magnetic state where linear positive energy was manipulated. He explained that his time machine was a heavily modified 1967 Chevrolet truck, and that it could only travel to specific dates and places. So basically, Marty McFly with an older DeLorean. John made several predictions about the future. He talked about a civil war in the United States that would break out in 2004, leading to a second American Civil War starting in 2005 and ending in 2008. He also mentioned a World War III that would begin in 2015. These predictions included details about the political climate, the collapse of governments, and the rise of different factions within the United States. Was he wrong? Yes. He shared information about the future society in 2036, describing it as a world that had recovered from the wars he predicted. According to him, the world had become more stable and technologically advanced, with improved living conditions and a better understanding of time travel. Even with the detailed information, there were inconsistencies and inaccuracies in John's predictions. For example, everything he just mentioned. As time passed and John did not return from the future, many people began to suspect that his story was a hoax. The lack of truth to his predictions convinced people that he was not a genuine time traveler. Ghost in a jar. I'll read that again in case we all just got mindfucked. Ghost in a jar. So it was. In 2003, an item listed on eBay claimed to contain a ghost inside a jar. No shit. The listing described the jar as housing the spirit of a deceased person, asserting that the ghost had been trapped within the glass container through mysterious means. The seller provided detailed descriptions of the jar, mentioning that it was made of clear glass with a tightly sealed lid to prevent the ghost from escaping. Photographs included in the auction showed a seemingly ordinary jar with what appeared to be a faint, swirling mist inside, which many interpreted as the presence of a ghostly entity. As the auction began, the item quickly got bidders offering higher and higher prices. Throughout the auction period, the seller provided additional information about the origins of the jar and the ghost it purportedly contained. Claims were made that the ghost had been causing disturbances before being captured, and that the jar was a secure way to contain the spirit. The seller also mentioned that the ghost could communicate under specific conditions, such as when the jar was placed in moonlight or when certain chants were recited. The winning bidder took ownership of the jar, which then became the subject of even more debate. Many users who had bid on the item were disappointed after realizing that the jar likely did not contain an actual ghost. After the auction, it became evident that the eBay ghost in a jar was a deliberate hoax designed to exploit the fascination with ghosts. It was just a standard glass container with no supernatural properties, and the swirling mist was created using simple visual effects such as smoke or fog. Sounds from hell. In the early 90s, deep drilling projects began in Siberia so they could explore natural resources beneath the ice. These projects had them drilling kilometers into the earth. As the drilling progressed, workers started to hear unusual sounds from deep below the surface. These sounds were low, rumbling noises that seemed to echo from the very depths of the earth. The recordings of these sounds were shared, and media, being media, covered it. Reports described the noises as otherworldly, suggesting that they might be voices or noises from another world. The concept that deep within Siberia, the drilling had reached a place resembling the traditional idea of hell, complete with eerie sounds, resonated with many people. Agartha? No. Please, not Agartha. Experts say that the sounds were natural geological phenomena like plate movements, but it was too good to be quickly debunked. As the story gained more attention, it became a topic of intense debate. The conspiracy theorists and scientists battled it out with swords and shields. These people presented alternative explanations, claiming that the sounds were evidence of supernatural forces or hidden dimensions. Their theories, of course, were out of this world, and so were their evidence. Investigations revealed that some of the sounds had been manipulated or taken out of context to support the narrative of a hellish origin. Audio editing techniques were used to enhance certain frequencies, making the sounds appear more sinister and otherworldly than they actually were. Also, there were inconsistencies in the reports, with some sources exaggerating the nature and impact of the sounds. Scientists explained that the sounds were likely the result of tectonic movements, ice cracking, or the flow of underground water. These explanations provided a rational basis for the noises. And with that, let's not believe everything we see on the internet. Be media literate. See y'all.